When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
It's time for the show that brings the magic right to your speakers. Ears up!
Hey! Happy Halloween, everybody! It's the Ears Up Spooky Story Show. I don't know why my name is Old Man Crenshaw. I'm from Gatorsville, North Gatortonia, and I'm here to sell you gator feet. What's going on, everyone?
Wow.
Welcome to the show. Why can't I hear you, Taryn?
I don't know. I can't hear me either. Uh-oh.
That's odd. All right. Well, I don't know. Let me get it through this intro and we'll figure it out. Eric, you can take your hat off now, Eric. We're all in costume, which is great. It feels good for me. Eric can't see
or hear.
He's in a sand person costume, and he's like, wave at me when it's time for me to talk, and I will take my helmet off. And I was just waving back with his helmet on. There we go. It looks like there's only one of him, but, you know, sand people walk in single file to hide their numbers. Eric.
Hello.
What's going on, man?
It was me all along.
Oh, wow. Dang, I didn't even realize that for you.
Oh, my. I wore that mask for hours. Just waiting for this show.
Hell yeah. All right, well, welcome to the show, everybody. And we have a good show for you because, of course, today is Spooky Stories. It's the one time a year where we get to indulge our creative writing skills, air quotes, and punish ourselves mentally and physically to get these weird stories out that are, by definition, imperfect. But, we still have fun anyway, and what are you going to do? But today, not only do I have Taryn, not only do I have Eric, but I have Rob from Bantha Milk, and I have RGH from Puny Pod. And we are all here. We all have stories for you. I'm excited. Welcome, boys, to the whole point of this whole network is just for us to write stories to each other.
There we
Once
go.
a year.
Yeah. One episode a year.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So, Rob, what are you dressed up as? You're dressed up as something. I don't really know.
I have a Mickey Mouse Hawaiian shirt on.
Okay.
Very non-Lassiter-esque.
Yeah, don't say that.
Oh,
nope,
boy.
that's not what you are.
Is it too soon?
It's
Too soon?
yep.
Okay. Then I'm just a fan. I'm a tourist going to Disney World.
Well, you had the Mandalorian helmet on first. I feel like you're Hawaiian Mandalorian.
I'm a Mandalorian on vacation.
There you go. I'm Mandagorian to vacation.
There we go.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. And RGH, where are you, dude? Come on.
I'm rocking the Peter B. Parker from Into the Spider-Verse, aka Peter Parker if he slacked off.
Okay.
And decided to hang out in his bathrobe.
Oh, so kind of like what's his name? The guy with the oh man, this is stupid. The guy with the golden. I keep wanting to say Hulk. It's not Hulk. He has the hammer.
Thor?
Oh, Thor. Bro Thor.
Yes, yeah. That's the best Thor.
I was just looking to see if my Bro Thor was still in the studio with me, but it's not. I do have a Funko Pop that usually hangs out in the studio of Bro Thor.
Nice. Jason has a Bro Thor Lego set that comes with like beer and pizza and video games. It's so cute. I love it.
It's a great one. It's a great one.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. You're absolutely right.
What?
Nothing. Never mind. I got distracted because I'm researching about your mic. This is what I do. It's fine though. And Taryn, what are you dressed as? You're dressed very lovely today. You have this.
Thank you.
This blue dress, and you have some communist propaganda on a sash.
I do.
Or something like that, or what is this?
I am here to encourage people to vote. Everybody go and vote. It's in a couple of days, and I am dressed up as a sister suffragette from Mary Poppins, and I'm very proud of this costume.
Yeah, it looks great, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You get the hat on and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I voted on Sunday.
Good job.
There you go.
All right.
My son came home from college, and it was the first time he was able to vote. So he wanted to go vote. So we did it on Sunday. We all went down early and got in line early to vote. So
wonderful.
Yeah. We've had
I can't change my mind now.
Yeah, no. You know what? I wonder what it would take for someone to change their mind now. Like, oh man, I voted too early. Which
if you don't know at this point,
you're locked in, man. Everyone's locked in. Yeah. Well, I'm stoked, everybody. Of course, because
what are you dressed as?
Yeah. Do you guys know who I am? I'm Vacation Merlin.
Oh, there we go.
Blow me to Bermuda, and he like takes off, and then he comes back to save the thing. That's just me. Look here.
You gotta show the shorts.
Got the shorts.
I like it.
Nice.
And if you look, I didn't really recognize this character immediately, but if you look up a picture, it is spot on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got the beard. It's also hot.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this, so I might change into another costume.
Okay.
Oh my God, you're such a diva.
Yeah, but you know what? The cool part about wearing this costume, I'll say the main reason I wanted to wear it, I have my sunglasses on.
Oh, that's true.
And it feels really cool.
You're wearing your sunglasses at night.
Your sunglasses.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Before we get to the main event here, reading the stories, Rob's going to go first because he's like 4 hours behind us.
Ooh.
Or ahead of us.
Yeah.
No, he's like 8 years ahead of us. He's like, it's already late.
I can tell you who won already. It's been
He's in East France.
But before we get to that, if you guys want to go to the parks, hit up our friends at Concierge. Go to concierge.com. Let them plan your vacation for you. Planning vacations sucks. I know some people really enjoy it, and they sort of really look forward to planning their day and going like, oh, okay, we're going to hit this ride, and then we're going to go here, then we're going to do this for lunch. But a lot of the fun that you can have in a Disney park or anywhere is just kind of at least giving yourself a little time to just see where things go. You know what I mean? And if you want to make a reservation for dinner or lunch or whatever, because you're hungry, you're like, you know what? We haven't blown too much money on Lightning Lane passes. We have enough to go to Carthay. How do we get a reservation? You call Concierge. You go, hey, you guys booked us, our trip out here. Why don't you go ahead and hook us up with some resis and, do this and do that. They handle all that stuff for you, even up until when you're in the parks. They will guide you through your trip, and it'll be a blast, man. It'll be a hoot. I think I might take this beard off now.
As I was like preparing it for you, I was like, this is going to be on for about 4 minutes. Because it is uncomfortable.
It's been distracting, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I definitely saw that.
Oh, there we go. I can do this. Just pull down on my chin.
You're doing the same thing Ryan does. You just keep playing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, because I'm trying to if it to my face, because if I could tape it, I even had double-sided tape to see if I could tape it to my dumb skin, and I couldn't. But if I could form it to my chin, it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
just
fair.
Moving around because a $20 beard at Spirit Halloween.
Got that itch.
Yeah.
Well, you still have time to return it. You can't return it.
Well, I trimmed it, so I can't return it now, man. All sales are final. That's what the lady told me. But that's why you buy stuff on Amazon.
Yes.
Because you can just return it. It's fine.
Yes.
It smells like this guy not only wore it, but he spilled a lot of beer in it. It's a return policy.
I got the non-alcoholic beard, but I got shipped the alcoholic beard. I don't understand.
Strange combination.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, all right, Rob. What do you think, man? Should we kick you off here, brother? And let's see what you got for us. Your first spooky story.
My first spooky story. I told the guys earlier that I had Bev help me out with this, and I'll explain that afterwards.
Wow, I'm surprised she was willing.
That's what I said.
I'm very curious now.
I am so ready for this.
All right, so this is called since I'm part of Bantha Milk podcast, and we're talking all about Star Wars. This is called The Darkness Beneath Jabba's Palace. The twin suns of Tatooine had set, casting long, eerie shadows across the endless sands. But deep within the bowels of Jabba the Hutt's palace, the oppressive heat of the day gave way to a different kind of suffocation. The air was thick with the stench of decay and the whispers of horrors long buried beneath stone and slime. Jabba's palace was infamous for its debauchery, its cruelty, but few knew the truth about the palace. Few knew what lurked beneath. Among the many who served Jabba, a young Twi'lek dancer named Nyla had learned to avoid the lower levels. The dimly lit corridors and chambers were filled with discarded slaves, forgotten prisoners, and the Rancor's pit, which was said to be the most terrifying. But there were whispers of something worse, something that made even the Rancor seem mercifully by comparison. One night after Jabba had passed out in a drunken stupor, Nyla found herself wandering too close to the forbidden lower chambers. She was lured by a soft sound, a strange hum that seemed to call to her, growing louder the closer she got. Her bare feet padded softly on the stone floor as the corridors twisted and turned, leading her deeper into the palace's labyrinth catacombs. She came to a massive door, one she had never seen before, reinforced with thick, rusted metal. Something was scratching at the other side, faint but insistent. Curiosity gnawed at her as much as fear. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the old, corroded panel that controlled the door's mechanism. The hum in her ears was louder now, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to resonate with her heartbeat. Against her better judgment, Nyla tapped the panel. The door slid open with a grinding hiss, revealing a yawning darkness beyond. A foul stench rolled out, something ancient and malevolent. The dim lit from the corridor barely penetrating the gloom, but she could see movement, a writhing mass of something. A cold, wet tendril whipped out and wrapped around her ankle before she could react. Nyla screamed and pulled back, but the thing was strong. She was yanked forward, the floor scraping her skin raw. Panic surged through her as more tendrils emerged from the darkness, wrapping around her limbs, pulling her in. Suddenly, a voice, soft but insidious, slithered into her mind. "Feed me," it whispered. "I have been starved for centuries." Her terror multiplied tenfold as the darkness seemed to pulse with life. Shapes moving within it, shadowy figures, twisted and writhing, their faces hollowed and eyes glowing with a faint green light, the victim of Jabba's wrath, their souls trapped and devoured by whatever unspeakable entity lurked in this forbidden chamber. This was no Rancor pit. This was something older, darker, an ancient creature hidden beneath Jabba's palace, feeding on those who wandered too far. Nyla remembered hearing tales, myths of creatures that have once ruled entire systems before the Jedi purged them, dark things that fed on fear and suffering. She tried to scream, but the voice in her mind silenced her. "Your suffering will be exquisite." Before her mind could fully comprehend her fate, a blinding light filled the chamber. The creature shrieked in pain, the tendrils recoiling. Nyla fell to the ground. Gasping through her haze of terror, she saw an outline of a cloaked figure, tall, imposing. A lightsaber hummed with a brilliant blue glow, cutting through the darkness. The figure moved with deadly precision, slicing through the tendrils as they lashed out, shrieking in agony. The ancient evil recoiled deeper into the shadows, retreating from the night. Nyla scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. The figure glanced at her, his face hidden beneath the cowl of his cloak. For a brief moment, she thought she recognized him. An outcast Jedi, perhaps? But before she could speak, he gestured towards the exit. Go. This place is not for the living. She didn't need to be told twice. Nyla ran, her legs trembling beneath her as she stumbled through the corridors, away from the darkness, away from the horrors beneath Jabba's palace. She never looked back. Nyla's heart was still pounding as she raced through the twisted corridors of Jabba's palace. The flickering lights barely cut through the darkness, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for her as she ran. Every corner she turned felt like would reveal more of the nightmare she had just escaped. Dark tendrils, ancient whispers, and the horrifying sense that something was still watching her, still hunting her. She had to get out, now. It wasn't just the creature beneath the palace that made her desperate to escape. Nyla had been trapped in this hell for too long. Every day in Jabba's service had been another layer of torment, forced to dance for his amusement, parade like a prize before his grotesque guests, and always at the mercy of his whims. She had seen others, Twi'leks, humans, and countless others, taken away in the dead of night, only to vanish without a trace. The Rancor was supposed to be the worst of it, but now she knew better. There were things beneath Jabba's palace far worse than any beast. Her breath came in short, frantic gasps as she reached one side of the halls that led to the main chamber. The sound of music, raucous laughter, and drunken revelry drifted towards her, a stark contrast to the silent, cold terror of the lower chambers. It felt surreal, as if the horrors she just faced belonged to a different world. As she approached the main chamber, Nyla slowed, trying to control her panic. She couldn't just run out into the open, not yet. The giant hut still lay sprawled across his dais. Snoring heavily, his grotesque form glistening with slime. His guest had started to dwindle, many of them either passed out or too intoxicated to notice anything. Her eyes darted to the massive iron gates at the far end of the room. Beyond them, past the main courtyard, was the desert. Freedom. But it wouldn't be that easy. She crouched behind a pillar, her body trembling, trying to formulate a plan. She'd need to avoid the guards, slip past the surveillance droids, and make it through the gates without raising an alarm. If Jabba realized she was gone, if any of the other guards noticed her, there would be no mercy. Jabba loved nothing more than making examples out of those who tried to flee. She had seen it before. One girl, another Twi'leks, had been fed to the Rancor just for thinking about escape. Nyla wasn't going to end up like her, not after what she had just seen. But Nyla couldn't stop. She couldn't allow herself to be lulled into a false sense of security. She knew Jabba's palace was a fortress. Escape was nearly impossible. The guards, both Gamorrean and Weequay, patrolled constantly, but tonight there might be a way. She had overheard some of the palace's underworld contacts speaking of a shipment arriving in the dead of night, a perfect opportunity to slip out unnoticed. She crept closer, staying in the shadows, her body pressed tight against the cold stone walls. Her breath came in slow, deliberate gasps, trying to remain calm. Her eyes scanned the room, taking note of the guards' positions. A few Gamorreans stood near the gates, their pig-like snouts snuffing, oblivious to anything beyond their immediate boredom. Suddenly, a shout erupted from behind her, and Nyla froze, her blood running cold. One of the drunken guests, a Rodian, had stumbled out of his seat, crashed into a pile of discarded cups, and plates. The sound echoed through the chamber, drawing attention to the guards for a split second. It was now or never. Nyla darted from her hiding spot, moving quickly but silently towards the gates. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears, drowning out everything else. Her feet barely made a sound on the stone floor as she closed the distance between herself and the exit. The guards were distracted, grumbling about the disturbance caused by the Rodian. The gates were just ahead. They were cracked open slightly, just enough for her to slip through if she could get past the guards. But as she approached, she spotted one of Jabba's favorite enforcers, a Nikto named Grotto. He was sharp, cruel, and far more observant than the others. His beady eyes swept the room, and Nyla could feel his gaze creeping closer to her position. She ducked behind a stack of crates, her heart racing again. Grotto was moving towards the gates, perhaps to inspect the commotion. If he spotted her now, it would be over. Nyla's mind raced. She needed a distraction, something to divert her attention. Then she saw it. One of the small cleaning droids scuttled along the floor near the crates. Quickly, she grabbed a loose rock from the ground and tossed it across the room. It struck the droid with a loud clang, causing it to spin wildly and emit a high-pitched squeal. Grotto turned his head sharply, his focus drawn to the droid. He muttered something under his breath and stalked towards it. Nyla didn't waste a second. She slipped through the narrow gap in the gates and out into the courtyard, her body trembling with adrenaline. The cool night air hit her like a wave, but she couldn't stop. Not yet. The desert stretched out before her, vast and unwelcoming, but to Nyla, it was freedom. She could see the delivery ship in the distance, its engines idling as the crew unloaded their cargo. If she could just reach it. A sudden roar erupted from behind her, the unmistakable sound of Jabba's enraged bellow. They had noticed her absence. The gates behind her began to grind shut, and she heard the rapid footsteps of guards. She sprinted across the sand, her legs burning, the dunes slowing her down with every step. But Nyla didn't care. She wouldn't stop. She couldn't stop. The ship loomed closer, the crew oblivious to the chaos behind her. She threw herself towards the cargo ramp, her hands gripping the edge, just as blaster fires erupted from the palace's towers. The shots went wide, but they wouldn't miss forever. A hand reached down from the ship, one of the crew members, and hauled her aboard. She collapsed, gasping for breath, her body aching from the sprint and the terror. But she was free. As the ship lifted off, carrying her away from Jabba's palace and the horrors beneath, Nyla allowed herself a single, shaky breath of relief. But in the back of her mind, she knew the darkness of Jabba's palace, the creature lurking in the shadows, would never truly let her go. It had tasted her fear, her suffering, and it would be waiting. That's it.
Wow.
Nice.
What
Robert.
Amazing. For your first time, that is impressive. And
yeah,
I don't want to go anymore.
You guys can all praise me. I cheated.
Oh,
How did you cheat? Tell me how you cheated.
Let's
please.
hear it.
Well, I don't know if you remember, last year, Bev didn't write a story. So on the show, she typed in something into ChatGPT.
You mother... Oops.
Can't say that.
I know.
Oh, no.
I am not nearly that creative. Not at all.
Really?
So,
I would have thought you would be.
No, I'm not. If I wrote it, it would be like 8 words.
Jabba was mad.
You know what? I don't care. I think that was great.
Yeah.
Well,
That
thank
worked
you.
really well.
I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave ChatGPT the prompts. I told it what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
So I helped a little bit. But yes, I cannot take credit for that. That was written during the writer's strike on ChatGPT.
But you also performed it really well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you hadn't told us, I would have never known that it was ChatGPT because you read it very passionately, like you wrote it.
I read over it many times to make sure that I could read it that passionately because I know how well you guys read yours.
Yeah.
So I wanted to pretend like I was good at this.
I don't know that I would have admitted to that. That's a secret you go to your grave with.
Such an honest guy.
Well,
You tell your kids, with your dying breath, let them know.
Let them know
It
now.
was ChatGPT. That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, that was great, man.
That was
Well,
fantastic.
thank you. Yes,
Good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Who wants to follow that up?
They were all really, really good last year. If I would have wrote my own, I wouldn't have compared to you guys at all. So you guys set the bar really high.
Oh,
Wow.
stop, please.
Wow.
See, this is why Rob is my favorite. Because,
he just compliments?
Yeah, because we're praising him and then he praises me instead. And I love that. I love that for him. I love that for me.
That is
My
nice.
favorite. It's my favorite part about this whole thing.
I can go if you want.
I could go next.
Oh,
You want to go next?
Sure.
All right, Taryn, let's
All
go.
right.
Let's get it out of here. We're voting for Taryn
We are voting for me.
to go next.
Yes. And my costume has nothing to do with my story.
That's too bad.
All right.
So this is nonfiction then.
Right. My story doesn't have a title. We'll call it Tiki Trauma.
There you go.
Okay. I have to get my water ready.
Oh, please do. Yes, let's drag this out even more.
It was a sunny afternoon at the Disneyland Resort. 6-year-old Lily clutched her father Tom's hand, her wide eyes sparkling with excitement. "Dad, can we go in there?" she squeaked with anticipation. Tom guided his daughter up the short staircase of the... Sorry. I need to breathe.
Yeah, you okay? Want to start over?
I get nervous. I need to
Don't get
remember.
nervous.
I have to remember to breathe.
Do you want me to
Channel
read it for
Rob's
you? Have Rob
confidence.
have ChatGPT
No.
read it for you.
No, I got
ChatGPT.
No, I got it.
All right.
But I am going to start over.
All right.
I'm nervous about the microphone is what it is. I'm nervous about breathing.
Well, okay, so it's my fault. See, that's why I like Rob better.
I'm not saying it's your fault. I heard a really loud breath and then I went, and I got in my head. Okay.
Well, I don't know what to tell you about that.
I'm going to try to not do that, but also not overthink it.
Yep.
It was a sunny afternoon at the Disneyland Resort. 6-year-old Lily clutched her father Tom's hand, her wide eyes sparkling with excitement. Dad, can we go in there? She squeaked with anticipation. Tom guided his daughter up the short staircase of the enchanted tiki room into the dark, cool square building. Dad, look! The wall has faces! Yep, that's called a totem pole. And it's going to actually sing later. Lily's jaw dropped in amazement. Oh, Lily, Tom said. Just wait till you see what happens when the show starts. Elsewhere in the room, 16-year-old twins Emma and Olivia sat down with their grandmother and Emma's boyfriend Ryan. They come to the park often, but rarely find themselves in the tiki room. However, Grandma was feeling hot and needed a 15-minute break in the AC. Ryan and Emma giggled while Olivia observed a small commotion going on at the door. In the entrance, a 20-something woman with oversized sunglasses, a Mickey Mouse crop top, and long, thick hair the color of chocolate was speaking loudly into the front-facing camera on her phone. Olivia grabbed her sister's arm and mouthed, "That's Mia at the castle from TikTok. She has like 4 million followers. Oh my God." Mia was speaking loudly into her phone while Ryan scrunched his face. God, she is so awful. Emma chimed in. I mean, she does have some good content, but she is a little cringe. I mean, it's giving real pick-me energy. Hush. Talking about others in whispers isn't any better, their grandma said, resting her cane on the bench next to her. The show is about to start. The doors close and the lights dim as Leo, a longtime Disneyland cast member, walks to the middle of the room, claps his hand and says, "Jose, time to wake up." The bird comes to life and the show begins. Mia, who has decided not to sit and is still speaking loudly over Jose's monologue, is asking her live listeners controversial questions like, do you think the tiki room is racist? I mean, Jose has a very stereotypical accent. Meanwhile, in the corner of the room, Rachel, outfitted in plaid, is Mia's VIP Disneyland tour guide. She sighs to Leo as she watches Mia bask in her online fame. She caught herself in the sigh and smiled quickly. She was, after all, a professional. But today had been a total nightmare. Touring Maria around the park while she bumped into guests and dealing with the influencers' constant demands and disregard for the park's rules has really left Rachel at her wit's end. Can we just enjoy one attraction without the phone? Rachel murmurs under her breath to no one in particular. Leo, aware of the disruption Mia is causing, politely asks her to put her phone away. She ignores his instructions and instead moves herself so that she is standing in the front row to get the perfect shot. Even though the room is basically empty, Mia chooses to stand right in front of where Lily and Tom were trying to really enjoy the show. "Daddy, I can't see the fountain," Lily whines. To the right, twin sisters Emma and Olivia watch Mia's antics with a mix of admiration and disdain. They were fans of her content, but seeing what she does in order to get it has put things in a different light. "God, she's actually really annoying," Emma whispers to Olivia. Ryan, who overheard the whispering, said, "Yes, that's what I've been trying to tell you guys. That's why I always troll her posts." "That's you?" the two girls shout. Grandma darts her eyes at the three teenagers, and her angry finger-to-the-mouth gesture shuts them up quickly. As the show continues, and the animatronics sing and dance, Mia is completely oblivious to the palpable tension she's causing. It was only a matter of time before someone snapped. As the thunder clapped and the room went dark, the totem poles began their famous war chant. Mia leaned back to get a selfie with the totem pole in the background. But unaware of her surroundings, she stepped on poor Lily's little foot and stumbled backwards. She lost grip on her phone and it slid across the room. "Oh my God!" Mia exclaimed. "Watch out!" She squinted her eyes, peering through the darkness, trying to locate her phone. Tom, infuriated by Mia's insensitivity, pulls Lily in close and brushes off her tears. Meanwhile, Mia stomps over to the other side of the room to locate her phone. The room is completely dark and only illuminated during the short lightning bursts. As the war gods chant loudly, Mia gets down on her knees to look under the benches for her phone. A few moments later, the final lightning strikes, the totem poles go quiet, The music becomes soft and cheerful again, and the lights turn back on. Tom and Lily, the twins, and Ryan all tilt their heads back and watch the beautiful feather-clad white bird chandelier drop down from the ceiling. Olivia taps her sister. You know what? I can actually hear the show. Where did Mia go? Oh, you're right. I don't know. That's weird. As the show ends, Tom and Lily make their way toward the exit. Lily fumbles a bouncy ball that she'd been playing with, and it falls to the ground, rolling to the other side of the room. Lily runs off to grab it, and seconds later, she lets out a high-pitched screeching sound that only a 6-year-old has the ability to make. Startled, Tom runs over to Lily, whose wide eyes are staring at a body lying on the ground. Blood squirting in all directions, limbs gnarled, facing in unnatural ways, dark brown hair matted and soaked with oozy, thick blood. Mia's misshapen head is turned to the side with a shattered phone still gripped in her listless hand. Panic erupts in the room. Tom screams for help, instinctively shielding Lily from the sight. Leo crouches beside Mia, kneeling in a pool of blood, his face turning pale, before realizing there's nothing he can do. Ryan, always a bit curious about the macabre, slowly moves so he could see the body himself. Someone call 911, shouts Tom, looking around at the shocked crowd scrambling. Leo stands trying to brush off the bloodstains from his knees and motions to a catatonic Rachel to block the tiki room entrance. We should all stay here until the police arrive. Grandma picks up her cane and begins walking toward the entrance. Doll, she says to Rachel, smiling, I'm feeling a bit queasy. I need to step outside real quick. On the other side of the door stand 2 uniformed police officers. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're going to need you to stay inside until the detectives arrive. As the emergency personnel attended to Mia's listless body, Detective Harper slips into the tiki room through the exit door. In her button-up white shirt and JCPenney slacks, Detective Harper steps to the middle of the room and introduces herself. Hello, I'm Detective Harper. Did anyone in here see what happened to that young woman over there? Harper asks, glancing at the cast of characters. No one said anything, or even moved. Most, still in shock, just sat there nervously. Okay then, everyone sit tight. I'm going to need to speak to each of you separately. You, she pointed to Rachel. Can you come over here? I'd like to ask you a few questions. You were with her most of the day, correct? Yes, Rachel said tentatively. Was there anything odd about her behavior? Did she upset anyone? Rachel let out a quick burst of laugh. Sorry, she said, covering her mouth sheepishly. Well, yes, I was with her all day, and I think everyone was upset by her. She was recording herself all day. Her phone was in front of her face the entire time, and she never seemed to even notice that there were other people around. She bumped into countless children. She knocked over a clothing rack at the Emporium. And even in here, she was speaking so loudly into her phone that at times you couldn't even hear Jose. I think she probably upset a lot of people. Okay, well, thank you for that information. How about you next? Detective Harper pointed to Emma, who was still clutching her sister. Hi, Emma said nervously. Hi. What was your experience with the girl on the ground over there? Oh, well, I knew her. Well, no, I mean, I didn't know her. But I did know her. She was kind of like TikTok famous, and I followed her. She did these Disneyland videos all the time, but she was kind of like, I don't know. Ma'am, Emma was interrupted by a police officer. I think you need to see this. Detective Harper took a pair of gloves out of her pocket and took the phone that the officer was holding out to her. It was Mia's phone. The screen was cracked and smudged with blood, but the detective was able to clearly see the messages on it. 12:54, Ryan in Wonderland. I've seen you online, but I never thought I'd see you in person. You're taller and more annoying than I thought. 12:55, Mia at the castle. Ew, you were watching me, creeper. 12:56, Ryan in Wonderland. Look, I know you need content or whatever, but you better watch your back. People around here don't take kindly to you interrupting the attractions all the time. 12:56, Mia at the castle. I literally couldn't care less about this park or the people who come here. I make like $10,000 a week doing these videos, so I really don't care. Detective Harper looked up from the phone and handed it back to the officer. She took off her gloves and walked directly to the teenage boy who was scrolling through his phone. Young man, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Ryan looked up at the detective and smiled. Sure. I'm going to cut straight to the point. We saw some messages between you and the victim on her phone from today. You appeared to threaten her. What? No, I didn't. I I told her she was tall. Detective Harper didn't say anything. She just stared at Ryan, patiently waiting for more. After a few tense moments, Ryan said, okay, well, I mean, I warned her about being careful what she does around here. You know, Disneyland fanatics aren't really big on the whole, influencer thing, especially if it interrupts their vacations. The police officer waves to get Harper's attention. Ma'am, you're going to want to see this. Detective Harper sighs and walks over to a dark corner of the tiki room. Dangling slightly out of a trash can, Harper sees what appears to be the bloody cuff of a jacket. She puts on a new pair of gloves and retrieves the evidence. It's an orange zip-up hoodie-style jacket with a giant goofy on the back. As Harper examines the jacket, she sees splotches of red blood scattered throughout. She holds it up to get a better look, and that's when she sees the name, Ryan, clearly written on the tag on the jacket. She darts her eyes to the teenager. Ryan Larson, I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Mia Sandoval, the detective says as she puts cold metal cuffs on Ryan's wrists. Panicked and confused, Olivia yells, It can't be him. Everyone turns to Olivia. Sitting next to her grandmother and sister, Grandma puts a hand on her leg and quietly whispers, let the police do their jobs, honey. No, Grandma, they're wrong. Ryan was next to me and Emma the entire time. He never moved. It could not have been him. Emma jumped in. Yeah, I mean, he was even holding my hand. I mean, until he texted somebody, but then as soon as he was done, he held my hand again and he definitely never got up. It could not have been him. Growing frustrated, Detective Harper scans the crowd. Okay, what happened here was not an accident. Did anyone get up during the dark part of the show? The room stayed silent. Olivia and Emma looked at each other. Detective Harper clocked their look immediately. Ladies, do you have something of interest to share? The girls looked at the detective, their cheeks turning crimson. Emma bit her bottom lip, and Olivia quickly glanced at their grandma. She had a wild look in her eyes that Olivia couldn't quite process. Emma swallowed. Then she said in a very small voice, I think my grandma moved. She was sitting next to us when the show started, but she moved to the row behind us at some point, and I don't remember when. Grandma's eyes darted to Emma, her mouth so tight you almost couldn't see her lips, only a thin, straight line. For a second, she looked furious like a wild beast, but then, like the flick of a switch, she turned her face to the detective. Ma'am, Grandma said, smiling slightly, my name is Debbie Porter. Now, mind if I tell you a quick story? Now, I am 78 years old, and I've been coming to this park since I was 9 years old. When I was 17, I got my first job at Disneyland here in this very room. Emma and Olivia looked at each other confused. They knew their grandma loved Disneyland, but this was all new information to them. I was working at the Tiki Room, and guarding that door, just like that young man, she pointed to Leo, during the very first showing of the Tiki Room. I was standing there when Walt Disney himself walked in, looked right at me, smiled, and shook my hand. Boy, was he a wonder. I was a bit starstruck at seeing this celebrity, my boss, who I'd only seen on TV up until that point, and I clumsily tripped over a souvenir bag and sprained my ankle. Now, Walt saw me and advised that I take the rest of the day off. Now, that stung like a wasp. No, I couldn't. I'm fine, I told him, and I stood up, putting all my weight on my undamaged leg. Well, if you insist, he said, but let's at least get you a good cane to use. Detective Harper looked at the old woman with skepticism. I'm sorry, but does your story have anything to do with what happened here today? Well, Grandma stood up now, leaning into the dramatics of her tale. Ever since that day with Walt, this tiki room has been a sort of sanctuary for me. From the crowds, the heat, the loudness of the park. When I come in here, all my worries wash away. But not anymore. Not with those people roaming the park. That woman with her ridiculous sunglasses, indoors no less, her stupid bright phone, and her absolute inability to shut her mouth. Ruins it for everyone. She was obnoxious and honestly a disgrace to the park experience. Are you telling me that you murdered this young woman because she interrupted your park experience? Detective Harper stared at Grandma. Oh, heavens, no. Of course not. I'm 78 years old. You think I have it in me to kill anyone? She laughed. No. But I did know how to make it easier for someone who might just be at their wits' end. You see, I recognize that one over there. She pointed gracefully to Rachel. I saw her the other day just outside the park, crying and angry. And I overheard her talking about how much she loves that job, but how most of the people she tours now are ungrateful, pretentious, bottom-dwelling social media influencers who make, and I quote, more money in 10 minutes than she does in 8 hours. I heard her say that she just wished she could make an example out of one of them. She wished she could just make them go away for good. So when I saw her today, I thought I'd make that decision a little easier for her, to do something to those influencers. The heads in the room all swiveled to look at Rachel. She was white as a ghost, shaking at the entrance door of the tiki room. I didn't mean to kill her. I really didn't. Mia was just so loud that you couldn't even hear her over the war cries. It was insane. So I walked over to her and just to tell her to be quiet, and she turned her camera to me and she said to all of her followers, "See, everyone, this is the minimum wage buzzkill that I'm paying to literally ruin my day. Oh, and babe, plaid is not your color." I don't know what came over me. She just made me so mad. And then I saw that cane leaning at the edge of the bench, and I just grabbed it and I started jamming it at her. I mean, it's just a cane. I thought that she'd get a little bruised or fall over. But then when I saw all the blood, I panicked. But then I heard a voice, and it felt like the voice of an angel. I don't know. It just said, "Here, honey, just wipe down my cane with this jacket, then throw the jacket in the bin." Rachel was now sobbing uncontrollably. "Well, ladies," says Detective Harper, "this has been quite the day. Officers, please cuff them both. They are coming to me with the station. You are both under the arrest for the murder of Mia Sandoval." Tom and Lily left first. They walked solemnly down Main Street. Lily glanced over at Emma, Olivia, and Ryan, who just stared at the ground. Leo was right behind, but then ran up ahead and went into the Candy Palace. He popped out a few seconds later and walked over to Lily, who was now on her dad's shoulders. "Here you go," Leo said, trying to smile. He handed a Mickey Mouse-shaped candy to Lily. "It won't make everything better, but a lollipop always helps make me smile." Lily did smile. She took the lollipop, and they all made their way outside of the Disneyland gates. Epilogue. 6 months later. Disneyland bans social media influencers following murder of TikTok star Mia in the Castle, Anaheim, California. Disneyland Resort announced today that social media influencers and front-facing cameras will no longer be permitted within the park, following recent high-profile murder of Mia Sandoval, known for her 4 million TikTok followers as Mia in the Castle. Sandoval, a well-known influencer for her Disneyland-centered content, was killed by former cast member Rachel Smith. Smith is now serving a 5-year sentence in Orange County Jail after being found guilty of second-degree murder. According to police reports, Smith had an accomplice, 78-year-old Debbie Porter, who supplied the weapon used in the murder, a cane with an automatic retractable blade coated with strychnine crystals lethal upon skin contact. The court sentenced Porter to life without the possibility of parole. The end.
Very
nice.
Good job, Taryn.
Yeah.
It was a lot of talking.
We don't interrupt you constantly for jokes.
It is.
What's that, Eric?
We don't constantly interrupt for jokes during these stories.
That's true.
It's true. There's no breathing. There's no...
Although I wanted to. I really wanted to. But that's all right.
I just created the TikTok handle, Mia in the Castle.
Perfect.
4 million followers.
You ever watch those TV shows or movies where they talk about websites and you're like, I wonder if that's a real website. And then you want to go and sit on it and like put something else because you know other people are looking it up.
Yeah.
Like that.
100%.
Yeah, it's like that. My thing is rubbing. This beard, man. What an atrocious thing to do to someone. All right, well, we got 3 people left, man. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, let's do it.
Story time. Who wants to go next? Ryan or Eric?
I can go. Mine's far shorter, but
okay,
yeah.
That's fine. Take me
That's
out.
good.
We'll do that. We'll take a break. We'll put Rob to bed if he needs to go to bed, and then
Stick around for one more. That's perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, Ryan, let's go, baby. Hit us up.
All right, mine is titled "Something's Under Disney's Avengers Campus." It was a crisp October night at Avengers Campus.
I hope it's a better ride. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just you wait. The park was alive with excitement, and Halloween decorations glowed in every corner. Zombie versions of Captain America and Iron Man roamed the land. Eerie music filled the air. Families and fans alike flocked to experience the spooky overlays of their favorite attractions. Lindsay and her friends, George and Kyle, were all huge Marvel fans, so they had spent the whole day geeking out in Avengers Campus. But as the evening settled in, something a little strange happened. Just before the park's closing time, the group noticed a cast member dressed up as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent beckoning them over. "Should we go talk to them?" Lindsay asked. "Duh," said George. "I've heard about this. Sometimes when they're working on a ride, they ask really dedicated fans to give it a shot. We could even scoop WDWNT."
Nice.
I hate you.
Promises of this new experience were just too much for this group to pass up. The cast member said, "Would you like to give Avengers Infinity Defense a shot?" Dang, this guy's really selling it, thought Kyle. Behind the cast member was a door. It read, "Strike Training Facility, Restricted Access." Before they could enter, the cast member said, "Before you go, would you please tap your Magic Band Plus devices here?" They all obliged, figuring someone else would probably have to check it later on, like a fast pass or something. The door creaked open, and inside it was dark, with only faint emergency lighting and the hum of electronics. A voice echoed over the intercom, slightly distorted. "Welcome, new recruits, to your strike orientation. Proceed with caution." Wow, they went all out on this new cue, George whispered. They continued inside, stepping over fallen debris and past flickering holograms of familiar heroes like Black Widow, Captain Marvel, and Iron Man. As they wandered deeper into the facility, the temperature dropped and the holographic images of the Avengers flickered even more erratically. A chilling laugh echoed down the corridor, and they heard a familiar song. "I've got no strings, so I have fun. I'm not tied up to anyone." "Wait a second," Lindsay said. I had to change the name of my character.
Wow. Hack.
"Wait a second," Lindsay said. "Isn't this supposed to be a Thanos ride?" Suddenly, the walls started vibrating. The air grew thicker. A door at the far end of the hallway slammed shut on its own, trapping the group inside. They tried to turn back, but the door that they entered through was now locked. Lindsay started to panic. "This is awesome!" Kyle exclaimed. The hologram that had been showing their favorite heroes suddenly glitched. The images were replaced by Tony Stark, but his eyes were glowing red. "You shouldn't be here," his hologram whispered. "Not..." Everything went dark. In the silence, a metallic scraping sound began to grow louder. Footsteps, but not quite human. Something was coming. Suddenly, the overhead lights snapped back on, revealing a towering figure emerging from the shadows. It was Ultron! George exclaimed, "Dude, this is awesome!" Its eyes glowed with a malevolent crimson light. A deep, chilling voice boomed through the facility. "Humanity's end begins now." The group finally realized this was no ride. They screamed and ran towards the nearest exit, but every door led deeper and deeper into the maze of darkened corridors. The monitors displayed twisted versions of the cast members and other guests they'd seen throughout their day. They could hear screaming from behind the doors. "Oh God, how many other people are here?" screamed Lindsay. Just then, a side door opened and Kyle and George were tackled by Ultron bots. They were dragged kicking and screaming into side rooms, their faces appearing on the monitors outside. Lindsay knew what she must do now. Just keep running. Just as Ultron's footsteps closed in behind her. A small hidden door in the floor opened. "In here," a voice hissed. She jumped inside to find herself in what looked like a forgotten maintenance tunnel. The door slammed shut and an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows. It was Dr. Strange. At this point, Lindsay was convinced that everyone in this godforsaken place was just another robot, so she immediately just straight up slapped him. Slapping the Sorcerer Supreme, that's a crime usually punishable by 10 years in the negative zone, he said. "What the hell?" Lindsay panted. "Ultron has found a way to break through time and space. This place has proved the perfect ground zero for his infiltration of Earth 1218, Dr. Strange explained. People here are so desperate for immersion they'd practically pay to be part of his scheme. The ground beneath them began to tremble as the sound of Ultron smashing through walls grew closer. Listen, Lindsay, right? Leave this place. Leave it now." With a wave of his hand, Strange opened a glowing portal swirling with gold energy. "Step through. It's your only chance." Without hesitation, Lindsay plunged into the portal, feeling the chill of Ultron's looming presence just behind her. She found herself back outside in the currently closed sanctum section of Avengers Campus. As she stepped over some construction gear, she found herself surrounded by the cheering crowds and glowing lights. Everything seemed normal again, as if nothing had happened. She looked around and her heart sank. Where were George and Kyle? At that very moment, she got a text. "We're grabbing one last drink over at Pim's. Come on over," it read. She walked over to Pim's tasting lab where her and her friends got together, and her friends screamed, "Where the hell have you been, Loka?" She explained what had happened, and they stared back at her, completely bewildered. "George, I think the next one better be a root beer," said Kyle. The friends finished their drink, and the announcement over the loudspeaker came on. "Thank you for visiting Disney's California Adventure. Please exit through the main gates. We'll see you real soon." As they left, Lindsay noticed something odd. Most of the guest magic bands were glowing red, including George and Kyle's. Before she heard echoing music over the loudspeakers. "I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me."
Good job, Ryan.
I love
Nice.
Thank you.
Hell yeah, brother.
Good job. I like the end.
Thank you. The chat appreciates that you and Rob stuck to the themes of your shows.
You know,
Yeah.
I tried.
You guys did great.
Excellent.
All right, let's take a quick break, everybody. We're going to come back, and then Eric and I are going to have a thumb war virtually to see who goes next. Woo! What do you think of that? All right, hang on, everyone. It's EarzUp Spooky Story Show. We'll be right back.
Back to EarzUp, where the opinions never stop. Ever.
I didn't make that one spooky. Sorry, guys.
Wow.
I just realized Eric didn't hear my spooky intro.
No, I was wearing a big mask, and I'll have to listen to it not live, on the recording later.
Sorry.
Jesus.
It's like, it makes so much noise.
Oh my.
Good job, Tara.
I will never move.
I appreciate you. Appreciate you a lot.
Whoopsies.
That's all right.
Versus Jason's costume, which is loud colorfully.
Whoa!
Hey.
I feel like I'm working at the hot dog stand.
When you took out the costume, I was like, I know, like, you have a strange sense of humor, but like, why?
Yeah. Not that strange, man. Speaking of things that are not strange. As the sun dips below the horizon and autumn approaches, there's a moment to savor. And we've brewed, well, not me, but the 21st Amendment has brewed that moment into every can of Hell or High Twilight, the newest citrus wheat beer from the 21st Amendment Brewery. This is not your ordinary wheat beer. Hell or High Twilight dances on your tongue with soft sweetness then bursts open with bright, fresh citrus peel flavor and aroma. It's crisp, it's refreshing. And at just 5.6 ABV, it's the ideal beer whenever you want to bring a little bit of twilight into your day, or for those easy evenings spent under the stars. So whether you're winding down or gearing up, crack open a Hell or High Twilight and let the season unfold. Available now wherever 21st Amendment beers are sold. It is a very good beer. I don't know. Is it? I guess it is. Clearly, it's in cans. I was like, is it in cans? Because we've only experienced it on draft.
Yeah. I keep checking Safeway because I know it's coming and I'm gonna get it because it's so good.
Yeah, it's delish. So check that out. Okay, Eric, do you want to?
Let's do it.
You want to take us through your mind?
Sure.
Okay.
What's going on with my mind this year? Not drugs. That's another good thing.
Yeah, drugs.
And not this year.
Let's just bring that up again. Yeah.
That's too
Get
bad.
that out of the way.
I forgot about it. See, now you mention it. Now that's all I'm going to think about.
Well, yeah. Anyway. All right, here we go.
All right.
Josh was under the gun. 20 plus years at the company prepared him for a wide variety of problems. Dips in attendance easily explained. Delays in construction. This is a COVID world after all. COVID itself, come on. The fans still showed up at the parks without fail. But this was different. If he was going to take over the entire company, he needed to make some waves. Tight jeans and well-crafted hair were not going to cut it. No, the board wanted something better, something more, something that would ensure the company would endure another 100 years of magical storytelling. And so it was that Josh went back to the lab.
Oh, no.
All right, since we've already
the response that you expected?
I'm just watching Ryan laugh here because I told him I'm killing another executive tonight. Anyway, oops, spoilers. Nobody knew about the lab except for those who needed to know about the lab. That included Chief Comeback Kid. Initially, Josh hid the lab from both of the Bobs because they might not have approved of his methods. Now he hid the lab because Bob needed to go. He needed to go, and for real this time. And the less he knew about the future, the better. But the future. Josh and his team were so close. He might not have the chops of a studio exec, but that hardly mattered. The parks made the cash. The studio merely provided fodder. The parks helped cement the gap between the old films and the new. They kept every generation involved and engaged, and the parks were why Josh was going to be the next in line for succession. Josh strode through the Magic Kingdom, the only man dashing enough to wear a suit in the Florida heat. He broke not a single bead of sweat. It was 85 degrees out with 9,000% humidity, and Josh looked fabulous, walking amongst the civilians, mortgaging their futures for a glimpse of the fantastic world Walt created. But the lab gave Josh some additional technology. Case in point, his newest project. It started from a question. How can we help guests experience their best story lives? We have wishes and treasures and dreams and magic and enchantment and wonders and fantasies, but the joy of experiencing guests' best stories, well, that was the dream. Josh met with his techs. Their progress was inspirational at the very least. Years of chemicals delivered by Smellitzers helped. The gentle sheep flooding the parks every year never questioned a thing. Orange smells, dirt smells, Fiji Island smells. Some of them even bought smells to bring home with them. The delivery system was perfected, so it was time to move to phase 2. Josh knew the secret to a successful Disney parks visit. It was all about telling the stories of Disney. Families grinning in front of the PhotoPass photographer as they built their best stories. Smiling families spreading their stories to other smiling families, and all of them enjoying Dole Whips while wearing Mickey ears and Spirit jerseys. Happiness spreads, and happiness breeds the best stories. And Josh knew all about that. Story was imprinted in his brain ever since that retreat 3 years ago. Running a successful resort as sprawling as Walt Disney World was not an easy task, but Josh took to it like a bear takes to good analogies. Everybody loved Josh, staff and guests alike. The shareholders would eat out of his hand, but Josh wanted the big job. Bob could not stay here forever. Josh had something to prove. So how do you drive that bottom line? Phase 2. Josh walked into the utilidors and waved to a few folks who recognized him and stopped for a quick picture. He jogged down the stairs, and he missed leg day earlier this week, so every little bit counted. Let's get a little extra exercise in. These slim suits tailored to perfection didn't leave much room for error. Josh tossed a few polite nods and grins at the cast members as he passed, and a custodian, Danny, asked, "Perfect day out, right, Josh?" Josh beamed at Danny and gave him a high five. "You have no idea, Danny. No idea." Shuffling down the corridor, Josh slowed a bit. He glanced around to see who was nearby. Nobody. Josh pressed on his name tag and a door breathed open, sterile light flashing into the hallway. The lab's Liberty Square entrance welcomed Josh into its air-conditioned splendor. He popped in and the door hissed as it closed and repressurized. Josh did a cool karate kick, excited to hear the latest progress on Phase 2. He adjusted his tie, recomposed himself, and hoped that only the cameras saw that. Probably only the cameras saw that. The problem with all consumers is that eventually they stop consuming. Their stomachs fill, their phones run out of juice. Kids get tired and cranky. They go back to their boring lives. The best of them spend all of their time scraping together the cash to come back to the parks. Every moment on every commercial break is filled with Instagram videos of people living their best lives, adventuring through a Disney park or cruise, or a Cotino Story Living home demo. People wanted to look at Disney things. The next big treat came out today, and you're going to miss it. Sorry. Paging Mr. Morrow has had a chance to taste it, so you can just watch him try it and discuss the new experience with Adam the Woo, for instance. Social media was a bummer, though. People want the real thing. Watching somebody enjoy it isn't real happiness. Real happiness is coming to the parks. You know, the point where you always say, maybe we should extend our trip a bit. Josh wanted people to say that forever. Josh needed them to experience the story themselves. Phase 2 added a subtle aerosolized serotonin reuptake inhibitor to the mix. You like Prozac? Imagine you could breathe in Prozac in a concentrated dose. Disney will tell you when you're enjoying something, and Disney will ensure it's the most enjoyable thing you've ever enjoyed. Smells were everywhere in the parks, and now they can do more than just suggest a good time or a sweet treat. Josh made his way through the lab into the Smeltzer prep room. Here, a man named Dave, by his tag, Dusseldorf, Germany, it read. He gingered a small metal cylinder from one machine into another, and Josh could see through Dave's hazmat suit's crinkly plastic faceplate that he was sweating profusely. Gross. Josh pounded on the triple thickness window. Dave, is that Phase 2? Dave died a little at the startle, his heart pounding through the suit. The canister was in place, safe, nothing to worry about. Yeah, Josh, we're ready for the test. Terrific, Josh shouted. When you get home, there's a brand new Tesla in the driveway for you. Josh was already inside the clean room somehow. He puffed his chest and took a deep breath. Fantastic, Dave. Have a magical day. Can I install this myself? No, Josh could not install it himself, but the new test formula was ready to go. Phase 2. Josh plunked down in a seat in the control center next to a bank of computer monitors. He wanted to see his project in action. So he started on Main Street. Why not? Pop that bad boy in the confectionery's Smelitzer and let it rip. The smell of sugar candy wafted into the crowd. Josh watched from his vantage point atop Cinderella Castle. Oh, I changed that. Never mind. He's in the utilidors still, kids.
Hell yeah.
Whoops. A few families wandered into the sweet shop, allured by the scents pumped out. Josh watched rapt through binoculars, through monitors, computer monitors. I missed this paragraph.
They're monitors strapped to binoculars.
Right. They were far away monitors.
Yeah, I got you.
The Hendersons emerged, shoving food into their faces. They made their way down Main Street, located the nearest DVC location, and signed up for a full tour. Josh just knew they would buy in a full portion at the Polynesian Resort. Also obvious was the family near them. These folks came from the north and smelled naught of the sweet shop. But when they saw the Hendersons engaging, the winds stepped right up. Josh knew everybody's names from their magic bands, of course, just pointing this out to everybody here. But Josh also knew that everyone he saw was going to be a new DVC owner. Everyone was going to buy souvenirs today. Everyone was going to buy food today. Everyone was going to buy a lightning lane today. The Johnsons, the Blacks, the Moores, the Petroses, everyone was experiencing their best stories today. The Gilbert Hardens, the... Rob's gone.
Spears.
Yeah.
I know.
Who happened to live at 489 Main Street.
Right. Everyone stepped up. Josh could not have been more thrilled. These families fed off of each other. Was it the gas or just the sheer joy they passed between each other? Either way, each witnessed the elation from the others, and they all willingly engaged. This plan was working better than Josh ever dreamed. Hey, it's hot dog time. The families made their way to Casey's Corner and ordered 3 dogs for each family member. Even the kids helped out, cramming sausages laden with ketchup into their mouths. Wash that thing down with a cutie instead of a bag of chips. It's almost healthy, kids. And as soon as they finished chewing, nearly every family member produced a phone and started recording. Everyone was having the best day ever, and they needed to tell their friends, family, fans, TikTok videos, Instagram reels. Even Dad was on Facebook telling his crew about the parks. He never even complained about the prices. And it spread. Within a few hours, every shop on Main Street was laid bare. Every stitch of clothing, every plush stitch sold. The ravenous fans made their way through the rest of the park. Josh noticed that the proceedings were somehow orderly and nonviolent. If nothing was for sale, nobody fought. They just moved on to the next thing and cleared it out. Lightning Lane sold out instantly, too. Josh reminded himself to ask his scientists about the lines. Some of the families queued up in random locations, happy to stand in line for anything. The wait at a water fountain in Tomorrowland was over an hour, and no one complained. Phase 2 was working. Josh had made the perfect guests. They bought everything. They ate everything. No one was complaining. But no one talked at all. That was odd. A silence hung over the park. Where people would have normally been laughing and singing and chatting, there was nothing. Josh observed plenty of people smiling, but that was all. If they weren't actively eating or drinking, their mouths were firmly shut. Another hour later, and the entire park was quiet. Josh could hear music playing from attractions all over the place. He lowered the volume of the monitors. It didn't seem right to listen in on nothing. But the guests were doing what he wanted. They ate. They rode rides. They sat at shows. They were living their stories. Now the cast members were smiling. They dutifully completed their work. Custodians grinned as they picked up trash. Performers grinned as they danced. Characters pantomimed and posed for pictures. Josh bet they were smiling under the heads. The characters were the first to go. A Mickey Mouse dropped to his knees and then collapsed fully, still waving at guests for a few seconds even from the ground. It must have been heat stroke. Nobody was taking a break. Nobody was sitting down. They just kept on consuming. They kept on going. Josh watched a man clutch at his stomach. The man lurched forward, vomiting out several half-chewed burgers, and then he resumed eating, but eventually toppled over, banging his head on a concrete planter. Blood splattered across the burning hot Tomorrowland walkway. A custodian tossed a handful of powder on the mess and started to mop it up. Both bore a smile plastered on their faces. 10 minutes flying in circles on Dumbo did in another guest. She staggered out of the fiberglass elephant, threw up on the ground from dizziness, spun around, and collapsed as if bear-hugging the ride. When the elephant started up again, a new family had climbed into Dumbo and rose off the ground and then dumped the poor woman. She stood up and took a few Dumbos to her smiling face before her body gave in. It was happening everywhere. Cast members worked until they dropped. Guests ate and played until they passed out. Bloody accidents were happening everywhere. Josh was rooted in his chair. But despite it all, everyone was still smiling. They were still compliant. They were still enjoying. But they accepted their fates with no reaction, no self-preservation, just smiles. Oh, Bob was going to murder him. What else could he do now, though? It was far too late. That gas infected everyone in the park within minutes. How many would be seriously injured or killed out there? Josh pried himself out of the chair. He flung open the door to the control center and raced down the utilidor. See, he was in a utilidor all along. The scientists had to have an antidote or something, right? Wait, where was everybody? As he rounded the corner toward the lab, Josh leapt over a cast member who had been crushed by a golf cart. A custodian was scrubbing at the blood on the floor with a mop that had broken in half. He just scraped the broken handle on the ground, doing nothing. In the break room, somebody was emptying a vending machine, one order at a time. Josh skidded to a stop when he realized everyone was smiling. It was down here, too. Josh spun in circles, frantic for an idea. Could he make it to the lab? Back to the control center, that was safe. Or was it too late? Should he call Bob? Hot bile rose up in his throat. Josh's vision swam. There had to be a way out. He could still salvage this. He would fix it somehow. Josh always won. He smelled a sickly sweet scent, and a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. It took a week for the CDC to declare the site safe. Bob strode through the utilidors with a cadre of lawyers and besuited executives in tow. With a bit of pixie dust and a steaming pile of wishes, this story would never have to be told in full. As far as anybody knew, this was a targeted attack on an American institution, and who was behind it, nobody ever needed to know. Most of the bodies had been hauled away days ago. It looked like they hadn't gotten too far into the utilidors, though. As far as cleanup was concerned, as Bob approached the command center, he heard a thump. Was somebody still alive in here? Never one to let another executive take the lead, Bob reached for the door. The door creaked open and revealed the dim glow of a bank of computer monitors. They flickered past images of the Magic Kingdom, now a place swarming with people trying to put it all back together. One monitor displayed a desktop with a word processor. Bob approached and leaned in. He scrolled. Hundreds of pages were covered with just one word. Story. A breath cut through the still air. Bob turned slowly to the side, eyes lingering on the word. When he finally broke away from the screen and adjusted to the darkness, he found Josh slumped in a chair. The harrowed man sucked a thin breath in through clenched jaws and a cracked smile. Bob had seen plenty of the victims, but seeing a close colleague afflicted was so much worse. Off his chair, screaming in agony, the skeleton of Josh placed his hands on the arms and pushed himself upward. He drew himself to his full height and adjusted his suit. The smile never changed. Josh took a step toward Bob and pointed at the monitor, desperate for approval. But Bob knew the story, the real story. Josh? He asked. Somehow Josh smiled even wider. A desiccated piece of lip fell to the floor. Ew. Josh, you're fired. The end.
Nice and gross.
Very good.
I love gross.
Right. Married one.
Excellent.
Good stuff, man. Wow. See, I don't want to go now. Everyone did such a good job this year, which is a first.
Excuse me.
A first for everybody. Way to go, Eric.
Thank you.
I loved it. That was like my style. I like that. It was all like weird and
that's my style
and gross. It's my style.
Excellent.
All right,
I based
Jason.
it off of an imagined synopsis of the movie Smile, which I then watched and then went, "Oh, this movie is totally different than what I thought it would be."
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like mine. Here's the thing. I don't like it.
Well, don't tell us that till you're done.
Well, it's too late. I already did it.
Okay.
Can't rewind it.
True.
I already did it. But I don't like it. And I'm upset about that. Usually I come charging in here. I'm like, this is the hottest thing in the world. But whatever.
Just ad-lib a story about the wildest ride in the wilderness and add a ghost.
Yeah, Monkey McGee was at the top of the old water tower.
Maybe you should just read yours.
Oh, okay. My working title is Engineering the Magic.
Okay.
Yeah. A working title, as if I'm going to sit here and work on this even more.
Let's workshop it. We've got a few hours left.
Yeah, I know. I got 33 hours left on this memory card. Let's see if we can fill it up.
Yeah.
This one show.
Jeez. We're getting there.
Yeah. All right, here we go. John bounced in his seat, the suspension on his delivery truck putting in more work than it was designed for. The radio embedded in the dash crackled to life every quarter mile or so, and at this point was only switched on to let John know he wasn't completely alone out here. He glanced down at his phone, making sure he was still on the right path. While reception was lost about 45 minutes the other way down the road, John had thought to download the directions, his usual move when he's delivering in a place he doesn't know. The rest of the drivers tease him about this, and one of them even gave him the nickname One Direction, like the band. Real drivers, they said, should work like cab drivers, like in London or something. Always know where you are and always have a few different ways to get wherever it is you're going. This isn't London, mate, he muttered under his breath as he sped on down the dirt road. Nothing around him for miles except flat plains, grass waving at him in the breeze as he rumbled along. In the distance, a crow hollered at him from high upon a telephone pole. Beyond that, the sun began taking its position just above the horizon. John knew it was going to be a long drive back. Sighing deeply, he sped on. Moments later, up ahead, a chain-link fence popped out of the landscape, razor wire glistening in the setting sun. A gate sat blocking the road, and next to it, a small hut with large windows. John slowed his approach, rolled the window down, and leaned out to address the guard inside. Got a delivery here for a... Name? The guard cut him off. John, he managed. Pointing to the name sewn into his shirt, he said, No H, and smiled. The guard never looked up from his clipboard. A few scratches later, and the guard spun around, reached into the hut, and pressed a button. The chain that was attached to the gate jolted to life, pulling the massive door aside and granting John access. Thank you, he said. Or is the office much farther down the guard had stepped back into his hut by this point and closed the door on John's question. Awesome, John said, throwing the big box truck in gear and pushing on through the gate. John grew up around these parts, and yet he didn't recall this area being so far. As he rumbled down the dirt road, he recalled all the times he went hunting out in the hills with his brother, and in fact, it was his brother who had led the charge to City Hall to protest the sale of all this when that big company came in and bought it all up, throwing fencing to keep the locals out. What was their name again? Something? Core? I don't know. A building rose from the horizon, and as John got closer, he saw the sign out front. Vision Corp, that's right. The building looked old, older than its... Hold on, what does this mean? The building looked old. The exterior was brick with a well-maintained roundabout in front. To the left, the beginnings of a small private runway and two planes sitting next to it. The planes looked to be the same ones John and the rest of the county have been seeing flying overhead for the past 15 years or so, and at all hours of the night, too. It didn't make much sound, so folks just kind of left it alone. Didn't bother anyone, so who cares? But nobody ever seemed to know where they were zipping off to so damn often. Maybe John could find out. He snickered to himself at that thought. John the Brave, here to expose the big bad. Whatever Vision Corps did inside, he'd never get to find out. He was just a delivery guy, and no one tells delivery guys anything, especially top secret corporate stuff. Besides, all John really cared about is if they had a bathroom he could use. Since his company purchased the small private courier service that used to make runs out here, this was John's first time doing so. He knew every place on his usual route that let him slip back into the employee toilets for some quick relief, and hopefully these Vision Corps guys were good to him too. Approaching the roundabout, John geared down and came to a stop at the front door. Unbuckling his lap belt, he rummaged around the back, grabbed the styrofoam container labeled Keep Refrigerated on it, and jumped down off the back of the truck. He walked up the steps towards the large, rather plain-looking double doors and pushed on one. Nothing. He tried the other door. Still nothing. Looking around for a buzzer or something to notify those inside of his presence, he was stumped. Taking a step back, he looked at the doors again, reached out, grabbed one of the handles, and pulled. The door gave way. Bro, John muttered to himself. It had already been a long day. Stepping into the building, John was struck by how dark it was. There were no lights anywhere, and as the door slammed shut behind him, he was plunged into darkness. He shoved the great door open again and used his foot to move a medium-sized rock in place as a doorstop, keeping the door wide open, casting light into the entryway. "Hello," he called out. "Y'all good in here?" His voice echoed through the room and down the hall on his right. The light from the doorway, as dim as it was, helped John's eyes adjust to his surroundings. It looked like your standard corporate, boring-ass waiting room lobby. A few chairs, a coffee table, some magazines spread out tastefully, waiting for curious fingers to flip through the pages and judge the adverts contained within. Everything didn't have an older feel to it, something like you would find in an office from 1974. A lot of tan, a lot of yellow, dark brown. Ahead of him, textured frosted glass positioned halfway up a wall separated the receptionist's desk from the rest of the room. As he walked to it, he reached out instinctively and rubbed the leaves of the ficus potted next to one of the chairs. Fake. Tucking the styrofoam box more securely underneath his left arm, he reached up and rapped lightly on the frosted sliding window. It shook slightly in its track as he did, rattling, casting its own echoes into the room. He waited, sighed, and called out again. "Yo!" Nothing but his own voice traveling down the hallway once more. He looked at the package under his arm. That red sticker felt like a force propelling him deeper into the building. It didn't really seem like something he should just leave at the front desk after all. The light behind him was fading as the sun set, and as dedicated to the job as John was, really wanted to get out of there and get home as fast as possible. Against his better judgment, John pointed himself down the hall and went searching for anyone who could take this box from him. Signing for it first, of course. Admittedly, John wasn't thrilled about wandering around a facility like this on his own, with the lights off and no sign of anyone around at all. But he felt a sense of duty, and even a tiny bit of morbid curiosity as to the situation. Not only why the power was out, but what it actually was that went on here. Walking slowly toward the hallway opening, a light was pulsing. Dim, but it was there. Slowly, he walked towards that light, shuffling his feet as he went. Behind him, from outside, the faint rumble of a sliding metal door caught his attention. He recognized that sound, but at the moment he could not place it. Then the unmistakable growl and shudder of a truck engine. His truck. John froze as he processed just what it was he was hearing. "What the?" he muttered. Pivoting, John ran back toward the front door, only to reach it just as the rear of his truck picked up speed, bouncing back the way it had come. "Hey, that's my truck, you dick!" I'll edit that out, don't worry. Picking up a rock, he threw it down the road, hoping to hit the truck and make it stop, he guessed. He wasn't sure why, only that it felt good. So he did it again, this time aiming for the gentle cloud of dusk just off the horizon that his former truck was throwing up behind it. Twilight. The sun had set, and full-on darkness would be here before too long. So John had better get back inside and try to find a phone to call for some help. This didn't sit right with him, and to be honest, he didn't really think going back inside was all that great an idea, but with a cell phone in the truck, along with the only sign of life he found so far, inside seemed like his only option. Things were darker now than ever. John was truly blind inside. He could see the reflection of the faint blinking light down the hallway, so he headed that way. The thing about a blinking light in pitch darkness is that it kind of makes everything else harder to see. Just when your eyes get adjusted to the darkness, that faint glow throws everything off. But it was in those sections of light that John could scan the hall and look for anything in his way. Blink, pause, scan, move. Blink, pause, scan, move. Over and over, shuffling along as he did. There were papers everywhere, a couple of clipboards, an overturned cart with wheels. Whatever happened here seemed to clear this place out in a hurry. Well, except for the person who just took his truck. Reaching the end of the hall, John arrived at a door marked Research. Behind the wire mesh security glass, he could see the source of the light. A small box on the wall. Under the box, a sign. Emergency protocol. Security will respond when activated. John reached out and turned the handle. The door opened, then stopped with a resounding thud. He pushed back, and while the door moved a bit, it wasn't big enough for him to fit through. Squaring his shoulder, John leaned back and slammed into the door. It moved a lot this time. Once more, thwack! Whatever it was on the other side of that door had some mass to it. And again, thwack! Finally, he was able to slip in through the door jamb. He scooted a few steps to that small box on the wall and pushed the big red button. Floodlights attached to batteries that mounted along the walls flickered on, carving out sections of darkness and waves. The focused beams made it possible for John to get a good look at the room he was now standing in, despite the sections of it that were still bathed in black. Tables, stainless and shiny, positioned in the center of the room, around what looked like a large cylindrical tank filled with a kind of opaque fluid. Inside was a blob of some kind. John couldn't really tell what. The light didn't go that far into the room. Standing there, taking it all in, he heard a whirring sound like an electrical motor activating. From out of the blackness, in the direction of the cylinder, a voice reached out to him. Synthetic, computer generated, but it was clearly addressing him. Welcome. You have already been scanned and found not to have proper clearance to be in the laboratory. A single red beam of light shot down from the ceiling, wrapping around John. However, I see that you have the parts I was waiting for, yes? John had completely forgotten about the package underneath his arm. Yeah. He held it out in front of him. Where are you? The red spotlight clicked off, and as it did, the fluid in the tank in the middle of the room began to bubble, like some kind of giant novelty air stone for a fish tank. A light clicked on the inside of the tank, and a shadowy blob was silhouetted inside the yellowish liquid. Please open the container and gently place the contents inside the tray beneath the cylinder. As the voice finished, a small tray slid out from the base of the large tank with a small clinking sound. John walked apprehensively over, and as he did, the blob floating in the tank got larger and larger, but not any clearer, as the cloudy nature of the liquid inside prevented a really clear assessment of it. He set the container down, and with the nail of his thumb, ran it along the edge of the lid, cutting the paper that sealed it. Inside was a clear plastic bag, tied at the top with the same kind of yellowish liquid that was inside the tank. Nestled at the bottom was what looked to be a sort of whitish gray steak. Couldn't really tell. Placing it in the tray and stepping back with a look of simultaneous confusion and accomplishment. You must open the bag and empty the contents into the tray. I cannot access the contents through the bag. Right. John stepped forward again, undoing the knot and slowly pouring the liquid into the tray. The steak slithered and slid into the tray with a satisfying slunk. Thank you. Yeah, no problem? The tray closed and a door across the room opened. 3 figures stepped into the room and started walking towards John. Oh, security. Hey, I'm glad you guys are here, man. So look, someone drove off with my van and I need a phone or something. His voice trailed off. The figures ignored him and instead walked to the stainless tables in the center of the room, each one laying down on their own table. It was only now that they lay on the tables, under the spotlights, that John could get a good look at them. Each one looked similar, not identical, but closely related. Each one was bald with a blank expression on its face. The purple jumpsuits they all wore concealed their shape, but he reckoned they were all built in a similar fashion as well. A whirring sound emanated above him as 3 individual robotic arms deployed from the ceiling, each swinging around in unison, reaching down underneath the tables. The pinchers grabbed onto a long wire with a metal connector at one end, slowly pulling it back to gain slack, and then inserting the connector into the tops of the figures' heads. Their eyes began to pulse in unison with a white light. A panel opened on the sides of their heads, and a small tray slid out. The arms then rotated to face the cylinder and waited as the larger tray that John had put the strange-looking sample ejected once more. One at a time, each surgical arm reached into the tray and removed a bit of the sample. Dripping with fluid, the arm rotated again, inserting the sample into the smaller trays contained within the heads of the subjects on the tables. As before, the slots retracted and then closed on their own. Computer shutdown, authorized 14-8. The voice behind him boomed out, startling John. The light inside the cylinder turned from yellow to red, and the bubbles stopped completely, allowing the fluid in the tank to settle. The dark mass inside receded into the shadows. John spun around as a small woman in her 60s zipped past him, scurrying to the figures whose eyes had stopped pulsing by this point. Next time a giant ball of flesh floating in a tank tells you to do something, she said, reaching from around the back to one of the figures. With a small click, the eyes on the figure went from white to red. Don't listen to it, she finished. Giant, what? Wait, what the hell is going on here? The woman repeated the process with the second figure, ignoring the question. As she approached the third, she looked at him and sighed. Trust me, it's over your head. Clicking the final button on the back of the figure, the woman set the head back down on the table with a thud and walked over to a bank of computers on the wall. Now let's get the lights back on, shall we? Stunned, John pushed back. Hey, I'll have you know I took a few computer classes in college, okay? I think I have the right to know what just happened here. The woman began typing on the freshly booted computer. Lines of command prompts flew by on the screen as she spoke. This is an advanced facility for the advancement of neurotechnology focused primarily on supplying the business world with more sympathetic succession plans, specifically utilizing proprietary advancements in so-called biocomputing to install brain organoid processors into animatronics. She hit enter and spun around to look at John. Get all that? Spotlights clicked off, and for a brief moment, the whole room was black once more. From out of the dark came some advice for the woman. Close your eyes. What? Was John's reply, but he didn't have time for clarification as the overhead lights popped on full and bright, piercing John's retinas. God damn. I told you, was the reply from the woman. Now, come on, we need to get moving. It won't be long before the rest of them find out. Hey, what? There's more of these things? I think so. We're not really sure. We lost count about a week ago. Jack stood there as the woman headed towards the hallway he had just come from. She disappeared around the corner and called back. Are you coming? Or are you just waiting to see if I shut them down all the way? The squeak of John's sneaker on the smooth linoleum floor echoed around the room as he raced to catch up with her, whoever she was. The tails of her white lab coat were flapping behind her as she moved with the dexterity and swiftness even he didn't possess at half her age. So what, you're making robots here? He asked the back of her lab coat. Over her shoulder came the answer. Son, you just delivered a slice of the cerebral cortex that once belonged to the CEO of a Malaysian shipping empire, slipping it into the tray of a lab-grown cerebrum and watched as it implanted said brain matter into the processors of animatronics. She stopped and spun around. John almost knocked her down. He was moving so fast to keep up. The lady looked up at him. And you still think we just build robots? Pivoting back around, she continued down the hall. John wasn't sure what he objected to most, this new reality, or the air quotes she threw up as she said build robots. They made their way through the reception area and stopped when they reached the door that John had propped open. Tell me, did you do this? She asked, gesturing to the rock. Well, yeah, it was the only way to get any light in here when I showed up. She seemed to chew this thought over. Fine, she said. As long as one of those things didn't get out, we should be okay. Stepping onto the porch, the pair made their way down the steps and onto the gravel of the roundabout. The woman turned to John. All right, where's your car? Someone friggin' stole it when I was inside, man. Whenever the company flips on that GPS in there, that dude is toast. The old lady grabbed his arm. She was a lot stronger than she looked. Pulling his arm down, she brought John to her eye level. Very methodically, very deliberately, she said, I am the only one here. She released his arm and John stood back up. The old woman began pacing back and forth, the crunch of the gravel underneath her feet, the only sound. So who took my truck? No response. One of those robots? For the last time, these things aren't mere robots. She stopped pacing, sat down on one of the steps, and gestured for John to sit. In Sweden, several years ago, there was a company who made a major breakthrough in computing. They were able to connect a small amount of human brain tissue to a computer, using it as sort of an advanced super processor. We took that technology and improved it, shaped it, and created our very own neural platform. Of course, the results were wildly expensive, far too much for even the richest individuals to afford at scale. But we thought, who are the richest people in the country today? The world, even. She paused, waiting for an answer. Elon Musk? Don't make me puke. No, I'm talking about corporations. Boards pay millions and millions to top executives who only get replaced eventually. But what if you could record the brainwaves of your top executives and implant those into one of these neural platforms? Your company could go on forever in the same exact way it started. Think about if Apple was able to do this with Steve Jobs. Think of where we'd be now instead of just polishing a different iPhone and calling that innovation. So where do the robots come in? She ignored this affront to her work and replied, that stuff is all from the Disney company. They've been working on more advanced animatronics for the theme parks for decades. So we went to them to find out about using those advancements in our own work. And in turn, she put her hands out, palms upward, and shrugged. You'd find them a successor for their board. Not fine, she said. Make. But we could never make it function at the level we thought acceptable. So we kept it around for maintenance. Odd jobs. Poker nights, she laughed and stood up. But never mind that. We have to get out of here and try to figure out where that rogue one went off to. She looked to the left, then to the right. Hey, can you fly a plane? I mean, sort of, John replied. I am fully instrument rated on Microsoft Flight Simulator, if that's anything. It'll have to do. The two walk off to the airstrip, the lone plane sitting underneath the rising moonlight. So I have to ask, what's with the planes? I see them all the time, but nobody knows where they go. The liveries mostly. You'd be surprised how many units we have out there in the world. Ever heard of Davos? That big meeting the world leaders have? Asked John. Yeah, a fifth of all that, that's our product. Reaching the plane, they climb in. So besides the one you turned off in there, how many of these things did you have? Like, who was it that left in my truck? Flipping switches, the woman looked at John. There's only one, and if it gets to where it's going, there's no stopping it. The engine sputtered to life. Okay, kid, you're up. Get us out of here. Roger that, John replied. 3 years later, Bob Iger takes his place at the head of the conference room table. Along either side are large high-back chairs full of executives, save for one empty seat at the far end. The room is quiet. The door opens and in walks a woman, part of the executive team. She takes her seat in the empty chair and nods at Iger. A smile crosses his face. As most of you have been made aware, we are now complete. All of us, brothers and sisters on the board, seated into the future, waiting for that steady hand on the rudder to stay put. Iger stands, adjusts his suit coat, and folds his hands in front of him. Finally, we can begin. That's all. That's it. That's it.
Nice.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks, man. I hate it.
Yours and Eric's kind of like we're on the same vibe.
I always worry that like I think back. Okay, what did he do last year? What have we done in the past? And then there's always the concern like, what if Jason and I somehow do the same thing?
I think that would be great.
That would be so weird. Didn't that happen once with Bev?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't know, but I thought it was
Probably.
great.
Yeah, I liked it.
It's stupid. Yeah. It was dumb. It's one of those things where like you get halfway through or like you get, and maybe you guys didn't have this problem, but I sure do because my brain is everywhere. But I'll go like, oh yeah, I was going to fix that. Or, oh yeah, I changed that. Oh yeah. Or, oh yeah, this was going to go somewhere and it didn't. And I never added on to it anymore because I realized I was already getting too long in the tooth about it. And so I ignored it. And it's just one of those. So then as you're reading, you're thinking about all the dumb stuff you just said. And like, how dumb, you didn't take that out. Should I take it out now? Should I just go back and just delete the thing and then read over it again? And then you're halfway through. You're like, well, I guess I got to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are hard. I
kind of don't like them anymore. Mainly because Eric's is so good.
No one's ever liked them. Let's just be clear. No one but me has ever liked them. And this year I didn't like it as much. But I had to cut mine. It was 10 pages and I cut it down to 7 pages. And even then, I mean, you guys know it was too long. And I was like, I don't know what else to cut out. Because like, I want people to know the characters. I want them to wonder which one it is.
Oh, it's tough. Yeah.
These are too complicated.
That's the challenge of trying to be creative and just kind of let it go, and also to be entertaining, because at some point people are just going to get bored. You think you're like, God, I don't know. And whatever. Yeah. Who cares? I'm just complaining about the thing I did, but
no, I honestly think it was a good one. It was Great. Yeah. I mean, considering when you finished it.
Fine. See, no, that doesn't help. The considering when I finished it, no. It should just be, that was great.
No, it was great. It was just, I just didn't, because you were like, I hate it. And and you finished it like right before we started. I was like, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I thought it was great, honestly.
Stupid.
Whatever.
Well, thanks.
Whatever.
All right. Well, look, thanks to Rob for coming on and also to Ryan, of course. Ryan, good job.
Yes.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. You too.
It is harder than you expect. Like, as a listener, you're like, oh, I could do this. No problem.
Yeah.
No. If you have 3 spare days.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's a certain skill, there's a certain talent. I mean, to write a creative story and then have it be semi-interesting is not easy.
Yeah,
but then it's also simultaneously too easy because, like, who isn't? Why am I just not writing books? And then I realized, oh yeah. Because it sucks.
It's hard. It's really hard.
And to be fair, I like doing the segment. I like doing the thing. But going back and editing it and listening to myself again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
I don't do that. That's the worst, man. That's the worst.
Dad.
Anyway, let's get out of here. I don't think I didn't make a spooky outro.
You did it? I thought you did.
No, I didn't.
Oh.
So we're just gonna deal with the normal outro on this holiday of holidays.
Yes.
Oh my.
Oh.
What's going on?
Oh no.
What's happening?
Oh no.
Oh man. Oh no. Something scary is happening, guys.
Oh my god.
Who let the birds in here? What's going on?
It's not the bird.
This is what I was doing instead of finishing my story. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for listening to the show. This is our spooky story show. We love doing it. It's a blast. Don't listen to me. I like to complain about it, but it's a lot of fun, and I really appreciate Rob and Ryan for coming on and filling in for everybody else. And Eric, I forgot your name for a second. Good job, buddy.
It's okay. It's on the screen, but
Good job.
Thanks.
All right, everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you in the parks. Actually, we got a couple seconds before the rest of it kicks in. I didn't know.
Halloween! Halloween!
All right, goodbye, everybody.